Yeah. True.
What happens on the west end stays on the west end.
Checks over there. You're all gonna get a check? Okay.
For sure.
Hi there.
One minute.
John gonna make it today?
He is not.
You thought you know.
Yeah. You gotta just confirm the Washington County.
That's, I'll be on. What you want to do?
So if you want to send ask Melissa and Brian. Today, segregation committee as well.
Yeah,
It
if
might be
Brian's
later.
here, he might know. We'll ask him if he comes. Just throw anywhere, Dally.
Ready? All right. I call to orders the counties of Warren and Washington Industrial Development Agency Park and Executive Committee meeting on May 7th, 2025 at 9 a.m. Roll call, Ally, please.
Trisha Rogers. Here. Tim Robinson.
Here.
Dan Bruno.
Here.
Ron Gonzalez.
Here.
We have a quorum. We have 4 out of 5.
Great. Everybody received the minutes of the March 5th, 2025 IDA Executive Park meeting as part of the read ahead. I will entertain a motion to accept the minutes. Dan, second. Tim? All in favor?
All right.
Motion carries. All right, moving on to report of committees. Park Chair.
Yes, sir. Not really much to report. I was there yesterday. Everything was pretty good. He was working away. Everett's done a good job. There's still some, not large, but bigger trees on the west end, west end of that pile of dirt.
Yeah, and he keeps saying he's got them. I keep saying I can bring in a tree company. No, oh, we got it. So he's proven himself so far doing what he said he's gonna do, so.
I was gonna stop and see him, but I wasn't sure he was there. I didn't see his truck or whatever, so. But, so far so good.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, as you know, we awarded to Grasshopper to remove the bushes, the piles of bush.
Right.
And we're in the process of scheduling an on-site meeting. We haven't scheduled it yet, but they're gearing up to do it later this month.
Yeah, good. Yeah, this was, your RFP here. It flagged all the files and stuff. So,
Yeah, there's over 30 piles.
yeah. But, all in all, like, looks good. Other than that,
The $7,200 for all those files.
Correct.
Very good.
Yeah, and some of the piles are hard to get to. They're not like sitting on the side of the curb.
They're not small files.
And they gotta go in with equipment to pull them out. So
You
that's
should
why
get
we're doing the
those other
onsite.
trees down before.
What's that?
yeah,
You should get those other.
Well, there might be a phase 2 in the fall, but we need to get the piles up there. They don't look good, so.
Do we have any structural work to do left? The one thing that I'm thinking of is the mound of dirt that's still near the rail. To be able to get that out as one final kind of point to us, or is that not?
now that, we're not concerned about that, haven't been, whoever whoever the buyer is can have it and do what they wish with it. That's the way I look at it. It's, as far as I know, it's decent soil. Although I don't know, I never dug into it. But,
So to speak.
it's, accordingly, it's good usable soil.
If the committee would like me to, I can do some research of maybe disposition, something easy. Something where we don't pay a lot of money, we just offer free and people come get it.
We could do that, but there's no point, I don't think there's any point in us spending any money to remove that.
What it does do though, is it frees up land for us, makes it, the land is readily available, ready to go.
Yeah, I don't think that means
It's not a
much.
game changer.
No.
I only ask because I know we got Kiewit on site for one more year.
Yeah,
Or
I mean,
less.
again, it's up to
If they're there.
you guys, but I wouldn't
That would
bother
be the
with it
cheapest
myself.
option of them all. Okay,
but,
It'd be interesting, I mean, it could be a quick phone call to say, hey, you're hauling dirt out, but that's dirt that's been exposed. Maybe they need clean dirt. Well, they have the trucks going in and out, it could be a win-win.
sure,
I'll ask.
Yeah.
I'll ask.
right, doesn't hurt.
The
The
other,
substation looked good, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah.
it
It's
is.
all cleaned up.
yeah, I think we'll have to get out, yeah, doing good there. Do you mind if I throw in a topic along the question's been raised? You might recall, and Dan, I apologize, you and I haven't talked about this yet, but you're aware that we pinged National Grid about capability to put gas in.
Right.
And they said, yes, we can do it. There's a path, but there would need to be some investment both in the laying the pipe and then pumping, depending on the PSI necessary to meet the needs of the new buyer of the site. My thought, I've sent an email to get the information to come back to you, Dan, and then the committee, is to get a quote for the engineering design work to bring gas to the site.
Mhm.
And it might be not a lot of money, and it might be something that we might want to do as far as investment into bettering the site.
You mentioned pumping for what
Well,
purpose?
remember the PSI, depending on PSI, they might have.
Yeah, but that would be up to the end user.
Right.
They would install the booster pump.
Correct. So the engineering work would more be about running the line, if we
Right.
want to run the line. And the thing that spurred me about this is down in Saratoga, there's an industrial park, and National Grid is being contracted to do design work to bring in more power to the site. They're not going to do the capital investment, but they're going to pay National Grid for the engineering design. Maybe we would want to pay National Grid a nominal amount of money to figure out, engineer the line in, and we could have it sort of designed, ready to go for any prospective buyer. Food for thought.
I have to chuckle, 'cause I personally wouldn't necessarily go that route. They're gonna,
Yeah, the one thing, the downfall of that is, what if they don't need gas? Then we've just, so there are pros and cons here.
sure,
The only thing and the other reason I bring it up is the last inquiry from ESD on the site selectors, that request needed natural gas. And so a lot of these site requests that come in are needing natural
yeah,
gas.
probably most of them will to some degree. And it doesn't hurt to approach National Grid and get a cost or price from them to do that design work.
Well, we'll see. I have sent an email saying what would be involved, and I'll bring it back to you and the committee once we get the information.
Yeah.
So just doing the prep work now. So we'll see. So to your question, maybe there's something there that committee would want to consider.
I was happy with the fact that this particular, one of the folks interested in the site had a question about gas, and we've at least given them a pathway to get to where they need to be. And so we're in a good spot there.
Yeah, if we had said no, it would have been because they need the gas, and now we've come back, we've affirmed that yes, we can do natural gas. They've gone through the gate.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an important gate. So more to come.
I did, look, I went up to the south entrance, east, whatever you wanna call it there on East Street. And, that whole lane, I don't know, I've got a photo here, but, if we utilize that during the bridge construction, reconstruction, however you wanna term that, that's definitely gonna need some work. And maybe more than just, if you're gonna just put crushed stone in there, widen that, you're gonna have to do some excavating to the base, sub-base, put some stabilization fabric in, and the heavy trucks, depending upon if it's straight away, it's okay. And Bob, you can jump in anytime with your engineering expertise, but if you're gonna be turning on it and stuff, it's with heavy trucks, that's not gonna hold up very well.
Yeah, I don't know if the broader group knows that we sent an email to Canal Corp asking for permission to do the detour through the East Street entrance. And we included pictures and a suggestion. We worked with McFarland and a suggestion to how this could be done. We're trying to do it. It's only a 4-month detour. We will obviously want to be economical with our spending here. So the request has been submitted at least a week ago, and we're waiting. Canal Corp typically takes a few weeks because they will take a request like that and talk to all the different departments involved, operations, legal, et cetera, et cetera. So hopefully we'll hear back within a couple of weeks about their response to utilizing that entrance. If they have a problem with it, then we have a problem. I suspect, being as neighborly as they have been, they will come back with a proposed solution. So
Right.
more to come on that.
That, that area in that quote island just, north of here where you turn, that stuff there could all be removed. There's a fairly new pole there. I'm not sure why.
I think it was a light pole that GE put in, because it matches the other light poles on site. There's a telephone pole, right, telephone pole and a light pole,
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
The telephone
telephone
pole's
pole,
fairly new.
yeah, it does. I don't know,
But that, as far as I know, that all can come out and provide a better turning radius there.
yeah, and I suspect we'll just follow Canal Corp's guidance as their property, and they'll get to us with a solution,
Yep.
proposed solution.
Worst case scenario, you may have to promise to pull it out afterwards.
Right.
Well, actually, the idea of the island was to pull it out now, so you have wider turning with the trucks.
But
Yeah, I'm actually talking about the access road itself.
Yeah,
Or any of
No,
those
that's what
improvements.
Canal Corp has said that informally, that the idea of being able to go back to the old road would be appreciated. So we'll see. Or they might like it so much, they
I was
don't want to
gonna-
pave it.
I would think they'd want to have it, to tell you the truth.
I
I
agree.
agree with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. They are, by the way, I know we're going deep here, the wharf, they have fenced it off and they're doing a lot of storage of mobile equipment and other equipment in there. So they are actively using the wharf as an operations.
yeah, they told us in a meeting we had on site there last fall, I think, that they were gonna do that. They're gonna start using that for storage.
Yeah, and by the way, they do use going through our main entrance as an access for themselves. They come through our park and they go through the wide gate, so
Yeah.
we're being neighborly to them, they're being neighborly to us. I suspect we'll find a solution here.
All right. Moving on, canal site project updates, Chuck.
Well, the first thing, not to belabor it, but maybe to talk about the water district formation, as I reported in the past, the village proposed an agreement, the town has approved it. At that point, I'll sort of turn it over to Karen, she can talk about next steps.
So at this point, I think we've got agreement between the town and the village, and the estimated costs have been agreed upon. So there's a couple like moving pieces that can be worked on simultaneously now. The part that I'll work on with Bill Nickus and Matt Fuller is the formation documents. But before we get to that once we get to that, that initial meeting where they can introduce the establishment of the district, et cetera, then things will move fairly quickly, but it's getting to that first piece. So we need to get the map plan report finalized with the costs. We also, to address some of the town and village questions, we need to address some survey work. So Van Dusen and Steves has already been out to the site to do work previously. So I think it makes the most sense for Chuck and I to reach out or try to get in touch with, or get in the same meeting, if you will, with Van Dusen and with Labella to address the comments that the village made with respect to, they want an actual description of the property that's to be included in the district and things of that nature. So we're gonna have to better describe that. The map that's currently there is kind of a, just this is the general area, but we need to have a more formalized. And then that goes in the map plan report, and then all that can be presented to the town for acceptance.
But the feeling is that it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be approved.
Yeah, by law, we need to have some sort of description of the property,
Oh.
since it's not by full tax map that's being included. We can't do it that way, so we do need a description. We do need some mapping to show precisely where this property is gonna be, because we're gonna have to, the town's gonna have to take that portion over.
It'll
Yeah,
have to be accurately
Yeah.
described and
The beautiful thing is that the formation of district is in everyone's interest, everyone's aligned. The IDA, the village and the town. And frankly, to me, this is a little bit of a litmus test, because if a project really starts to take fruition, there's gonna have to be great cooperation, and this is just one component. There will need good
is
cooperation.
everybody familiar with what we're talking about?
Yeah, so the progressing's well, we're just going a little slow. Let me just add on to map plan. We had a meeting with Labella last week. They've given us a draft change order report, change order request. We asked them to redo it because they had both water and wastewater. And right now, we just want to focus on water because wastewater, there's too many issues with the DEC for Labella to continue doing work, but the water is ready to go, quite honestly. There's been some changes where the original map plan report had only, I think, 600 feet of East Street water line replacement. Now it's a little longer, maybe another 1,000 feet.
Yeah.
So that means the cost will go up for the replacement line, which is absolutely essential because it will prevent groundwater occurrences with the residents of East Street, which obviously cannot occur. So we have to correct the line or upgrade the line. But in an offset that we've decided to do is take out the engineering or take out the installation of a tank and 2 fire pumps, because those will be unique to whoever buys the site.
Correct.
We'll do the engineering to make sure the water line can go to those tanks, but we will not be paying for those tanks. And hopefully taking the tank out and the fire pump station will offset the increased cost of having to run more line replacements down East
We're
Street.
going up to Wing Street.
To Wing Street, and that's the street just over the railroad tracks,
Yeah. I know.
just within eye shot of Broadway.
Right.
It's about,
Problem is, the main that we need to tie into is on the other side of the tracks.
right, and getting the other side just for one water line, $250,000 capital costs. Because there's just all these rules and all these engineering construction methods that need to be followed. So, nature of the beast, nature of the beast. Yeah, so we're expecting the revised proposal before our board meeting, and we'll be teeing it up for board approval at our full board meeting this month. More to come. Once we get it, we'll send it out to everybody. A few more.
Points, if I may. for
Sure,
that.
please, yeah.
First one is just make sure the regional planning board sees that updated quota and that they're confident that it's gonna be able to be reimbursed.
Mhm.
And then based off of the new run and the rail issue, so we are not talking construction in 2025, right?
I would recommend it if we could do it,
But by the
But
time we're ready, we're
but
trying to
if
get
nobody's
into the
ready, we
winter.
can't do it.
Okay, so I'm just, there's very little hope, but let me put, I mean, I don't wanna put 0%, but,
Right
based
now,
off
it's
of
already
everything we
wrong.
still have to do, there's
In 2025.
2020, no, very little hope of construction for water starting in 20, or at least.
You need it teed up for bid now.
Yeah,
Okay,
and the other thing too, you can't do it in the winter because it's a water line,
yes,
right?
all right.
So-
Yeah, you can.
Well,
You're gonna pay a lot
You
more.
pay a lot more money, yeah.
For the team, that much of this year is still gonna be engineering, planning and prepping for potential construction in 2026. Okay,
Yeah, the only difficulty in 2026 is that when we're doing the bridge detour. And I know we'll still have traffic going through, but if we get to 1 lane traffic and we add volume, the neighbors may not be happy. So if we could get it 25, I think it'd be within our interest, but if we can't, we can't.
I'll bring this up now, since we're talking about the bridge. Have we had anything from the Washington County with respect to a schedule or, for that bridge? It would be good if we-
We've had something months ago. We need an updated one now.
Yeah, so maybe,
I'll ask for an update.
please, thank you.
Yeah, I believe they're talking about April of 26, but let me get the specifics.
Yeah, could give a little detail to it, rather than just a date, give us a schedule.
Yep, got it,
I mean, they should have one, they need one for that.
for sure. By now, I'm sure they have it.
Yeah.
you said 4 months max,
4 months, yeah.
so we might not be able to run both parallel, one has to wait.
Yeah, perhaps. Why not? We could certainly delay the water.
Okay.
The 2 other points on project updates. We are pursuing various funding sources for the stormwater offset. One is via the governor's budget. Apparently, the funding is still in the budget. Not guaranteed, but that is a source. As you might recall, there's a $9 million price tag for the 8 to 1 offset. We're only do 4 to 1 offset, so we're hoping we'll only do 4 or 5 million for that. The other thing is Lake Champlain, Lake George Regional Planning Board has secured some funding, about 1.2 million, and they're putting an application in for another 1 million. So they are helping through grant request channels. more to come on that. If we're able to figure out the funding, then we can go ahead with connection with the sewer district. If we cannot get this funding, then obviously we won't have the funding to be able to do the entire project under DEC rules. And then the last topic is, as you know, we talked about the on-site treatment idea, and we're waiting, continue to wait for the DEC to give us a response on the discharge requirements of the canal. We first wrote a letter back on February 6th, and we still haven't heard back from them. So we're trying to nudge them along, but trying to be polite about it. At the end of the day, we just have to wait for it. Yeah, what's our hurry? Yeah, exactly. So anyway, so
Typical.
it's a little frustrating, but it's life, I guess. So that's it on the project updates, unless there's any questions or anything else to talk about.
All right, canal side maintenance updates. Check.
We already talked about the brush removal, and I really don't have anything else.
All right, canal side tenant updates.
None here. As we pointed out, all our tenants seem to be doing well.
Yeah.
We drive through between the two of us at least once or twice a week, and everything's going well, knock on wood.
Yeah, just a curiosity, Everett's got a lot of cars backed up there. I wonder how any of this tariff business or whatever with Canada, because that's where that spent grain comes from, Western Canada. If that's affecting that, and if it affects the price, I'm just curious, because like I said, I go out there once or twice a week, and he's got a lot of cars backed up there waiting to be
The
unloaded.
railroad cars,
I
yeah,
don't know if, I mean, they sell it to the farmers, correct?
correct.
Feedstock.
Well, I also heard that they've been warehousing some of it here too, not just selling direct, but warehousing. And so they build stock and then they lower it. So I can ask Everett what's going on. He tends to know. Yeah.
Very well.
And by the way, that sort of leads back to the issue with the detour, because there are a lot of grain trucks going in and out. So we have to make sure that detour is in good order. Yeah.
Include them in the discussion about the detour.
But as far as tenants, I think we're in good shape.
All right, airport industrial park.
The only thing to report, two things to report there. One is Berkshire Hathaway Lake Realty has an interested party. They are doing due diligence. We are answering questions. They have not come back with any formal proposal. They are aware of our rules and our application for land purchase and the requirement for a conceptual site plan and the seeker process. They are a Washington County-based business looking to expand. So it would be a good story, but there's more to be done on their due diligence before we have anything else to report to the committee. And one of the issues they are dealing with is the new New York State wetland rules. They were enacted back in the 2022 budget, and they became effective January this year. They do require, they're a little bit more stringent rules, actually significantly more stringent rules, including 100-foot setbacks from any designated wetlands. That would hurt our Ferguson Lane extension property. As a reminder, it's 26 acres. Under the old rules, 18 is developable. On the new rules, only 13 be developable. So we take away 5 acres. And there's actually a technical issue with one of the wetland buffers. It's actually blocking the access to the site. So we have some technical issues here that could frankly render the site worthless if we can't get approval under the new rules to access the site because of the wetland buffer. Coincidentally, you might have read in the Albany Business Review, I think I pushed the article around the board, that there is a group of New York businesses and developers who are suing the DEC over the new rules, both the extent of the rules and the fact that DEC does not have their procedures in place now to handle permit requests. And we've learned that the New York State Economic Development Council, which we're a member, is looking for specific examples of properties that are incumbent or hindered by this new law. And they've asked at us if we could provide an example. So I'm working on a write-up with Bob and with our wetland expert. And then I'll be reviewing it with Kara and I'll review it with Dan and the board. And we'll get this off to the EDC to use as an example, possibly for their consideration, because they are plaintiff and they'll take this along with other IDAs coming in with information, give it to the lead attorneys, and they'll determine whether or not, or what examples they want to use in the lawsuit. So I thought that would be good for us to at least help where we can help, and we'll just see where it goes. And I don't know, Dan, any other comments on that?
This is the, I think
Yeah.
the beginnings of the letter of support or whatever you want to call it. And I thought it was pretty good.
Okay.
Like, all you can do is try.
Yeah,
But I do think that, with all of the, so, this was the article.
that was the article, yeah.
And, where I'm going is, you need to have some legislative clout, shall we say, people like Matt Simpson, Dan Steck, Gary Warner, all those people to support us and the rest of these groups would.
That's right. I was just gonna ask that,
Yeah,
who's our political batch?
I don't know, we should, well, we should,
Yeah, be our representatives in Albany. Be our representatives in Albany, but now there's a broader group really pushing back on this, and I think that's a fairly powerful group, quite honestly. And by the way, I didn't mention this, but we, the IDA, through Bob and our wetlands expert, have asked for clarification on the rules for this specific site and asked for a meeting. And there's been no response, again, because the DEC is trying to figure things out. So this is causing quite a stir in Albany, and apparently there was a real estate forum a week ago, and it was the main topic. And before that, there was a group of developers on Rochester, and they had a blistering meeting with DEC. So this is really causing quite commotion here within New York State.
Why is it causing the commotion?
Well, the lawsuit is on constitutional grounds because of the vagueness of the regulations.
Okay.
So that's what they're arguing in the lawsuit. So that's what will be heard as part of the legal arguments. I haven't read all the papers, but based on the article, it sounds like, among other things, that's the legal
right.
basis for the lawsuit, that it's unconstitutional due to its vagueness.
And the impact on developable land by the Albany was estimated to be about 2 million acres, would then be subject to additional wetland rules. But now there's a group saying the real number is 3.5 million acres. So, and we're case in point with our industrial park, at least seeing the impact. So
Yeah, there were some other arguments in there about that the rendering of property unable to be developed is in opposition to the governor's position of housing development.
she won't be there
and things
long.
like that, so
No,
I'm sure they
but
put
you're right,
everything in.
they mentioned here, your quote, unconstitutionally vague
Well, yeah, I mean, you've got to have a legal basis to get.
and resulted in far more protected land.
So who represents us?
I believe it's a firm out of Whiteman, is it Whiteman?
there were 2 firms involved, yes.
Are they consolidating some of these lawsuits? Because I know there's several entities across the state.
Oh, no.
This one is a group, I think that this started with a builder. It sounds like this one
Okay.
started with a builder whose project was kind of put on hold due to the regulations.
Saratoga.
Yeah, and then, they've got NYDDC involved and the National Builders Association, I think, is a party as well.
Yeah, the
Okay.
attorneys are Robert Rosenborough and Connor Lynch of Whiteman, Osterman, and Hannah. Yeah.
Because I do know of a couple others, and this wouldn't have any bearing on the IDA, but Canisius Lake, Oneida Lake, and a few other lake
That's mentioned in the
associations,
article too.
that this shoreline properties are now likely to be part of this entity. Because I mean, I'll admit, I do a tremendous amount of work around Lake George. I've got lots that are shorter than 100 feet deep. So are they gone? We don't know.
All right. Anybody have anything for Canal Side or Airport Industrial Park? All right, moving on to ongoing business, BHB management update.
I guess we're just doing a quick update with the transaction. The board has approved it, and I imagine it's going through the legal process.
Yeah, we've got, the buyer has completed their title search, we prepared documents. So I assume we'd be doing that fairly quickly.
Good. All right,
Two other things on ongoing business, just to throw in that we have, two applications for public hearing on Monday. One is ADK LEI LLC with the housing project in Queensbury. As a reminder, we've had a meeting with the town supervisor and the Ward 4 town board rep. And thus far, we have not received any comments. Sometimes we receive them in advance, but we will have the public hearing on Monday, and we'll also do the public hearing with Native Development. We are having a meeting also with the town supervisor and the Ward 4 town board representative tomorrow, and then the public hearing on Monday. And then in theory, both projects will be teed up for our next board meeting. We do have a technical issue with another application. That's the Wood Creek Holdings, and we're trying to get the planning board seeker document clarified. If that is in good order, then we could have 3 applications teed up for the next board meeting, but we're expecting at least 2. So those are just quick updates on those applications.
any other ongoing business?
Just for the minutes, it's our ADK REI.
REI, okay, yeah, sorry.
Good. Any new business?
Any what?
New
New.
business?
Oh,
Any other business?
I'd just like to say that, you know, when we look at the financials, which will be coming out, how nice a job Chuck and Ally are doing with developing new fee income, you know, new project income, and really, you know, following them through. And so thank you, both of you, you've done a great job.
Yeah, I think it's a team sport. We have Karen and then we have our friend Brian at the auditing group, so we're
Work in
all,
progress.
we're work in progress.
The
It's
numbers
all-
look strong.
Yeah, numbers look strong and, yeah, and we're making sure when it comes to
Yeah.
balance sheet transactions, everything is being handled properly.
Thank you. I saw your email today. That was great. About trying to get an accrual status as opposed to cash basis. So,
Yeah, and what Tim is referring to is right now with the engineering work we have going on, we have the grant funding, but we pay the expense and then get the reimbursement later on, and it causes wild fluctuations with our income statement. But if we switch to some sort of accrual method, then it will smooth it out. Yes, the balance sheet will fluctuate, but our P&L will not be wildly moving around, particularly when you get construction bills, because those are hundreds of thousands of dollars, and we don't want hundreds of thousands of dollars in wild swings every month. So we're working with our auditor to figure out the proper accounting treatment that will just frankly be better.
the only other thing I would mention is, are we putting out to bid our accounting services shortly? Because it is up. We need the new accounting or back the same.
Yeah, we probably talk offline. Our auditor has been very helpful in sort of moving us through some new issues. And so the question is, would the switch now be more difficult for us to deal with rather than riding for another year? So maybe we have a committee discussion on that.
Okay.
The auditor have been doing very well lately and extremely helpful in going deep into our circumstances and coming back with the information and practices we need to know about.
Okay. Yeah, I don't disagree.
Yeah.
It's working.
It's working well. Yeah.
For
For now,
now.
yeah. But eventually we need to bid out the work. The question is, do we do it now or do we wait a year?
So when will we need to make that determination? Because we would actually need another bid from them, right?
Correct, they probably would
For
submit.
another year.
The other issue we have is there are not a lot of accounting firms that deal with municipal accounting. So it's actually hard to find. I know, didn't you do some research on trying to find firms that we could?
There's one.
There's one.
Accounting firm that will do audit work for the municipality. Oh, and I didn't even talk to them. That's if they have the capacity to take us on. I think they do. It's the old Marvin and Company. I don't quite remember the name.
Yeah, I'm not
It's over
sure.
on Everett's Avenue.
I know, so, yeah,
Glens Falls IDA, and they hired this past year Jean Laffer. And she partners with another firm that oversees the audit part, but she's like the hands-on.
Okay.
That's a big deal.
It is. Politically inclined.
Anyway, so we should start seeing what the time limit is. And anyways, we'll do our homework and come back.
We should,
Yes, yes, well,
we
we
shouldn't
got
have
these-
people dealing with our money who are, their job is politics.
Yep.
That's all their job is.
He's right.
The supervisor's job?
Huh?
We have supervisors on our board that deal with politics. I'm
Well,
just plain devil's advocate here. We love you though.
Hmm.
We love our supervisors.
You
But
said, like,
no, the point's taken, understood. We understand the point.
Same thing, go back to a couple more minutes. We're a two county, operation here. Who fights for us down there in Albany? What politician regularly fights for us down there? Who also covers Warren, Washington and Warren County? Huh? Who?
None.
That's what I think.
The ones that do don't win, so.
Well, what you should do. You've got big things happening. We got a big.
Well,
thing
let me just offer, this is one of the reasons we teamed up with the New York State
What's that?
Economic, this is one of the reasons we're teaming up with the New York State Economic Development Council, because they're broader and they do have a voice through the IDA, so we do have that group that helps us.
But we got a big thing going over in Warren County and Washington County. We've got things going. I just think we need somebody that we can say will be right there with us
No,
and you.
if you're talking about canal side, we do have somebody right there that is willing to jump in.
Zach,
No,
who?
Warner is our rep there. And she's.
Who?
Carrie Warner. And she's very much, she very much keeps up to date on what's going on, and if we need her.
Very good, but
You know,
she's
she-
in Washington County.
Yes, and then so is
Does
canal
she
side.
care about us?
Yes,
Yeah, no, she's been very good with us.
Okay,
absolutely.
I remember this day.
Historically, she's been good.
Yes, she has.
She has.
Yeah, she's good.
She is. Very
Has
good.
always been good. Yeah.
So, yeah, when it's time for canal side, especially if we get into issues of the state wanting this company in, and we needed just a little bit of help politically with, that's who we're gonna call.
Yeah, I think we'll also have Empire State Development, because they're the ones courting this company, and if this company says, yes, I want to go to Fort Edward, there are some other issues that at the state level that need to be addressed. So a company can be successful at Fort Edward. So we will have to exercise our elected officials and ESD to make sure we clear the path for this company to be successful.
Good. I know. You have the history. I don't know. I have faith though. I'm
What's
an
that?
optimist. I have faith.
You have faith?
All right, any other comments? Any public comments? There's no need to go into executive session. Anybody online?
No.
Nobody we can pick on for comments?
No.
All right. Well, I will entertain a motion to adjourn our meeting. Dan, second, Tim, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned.